In every day,
keep praying as I onward bound.
still praying as I onward bound.
We do give thanks for life. We do give thanks for health. And we do give thanks for strength. Give thanks so our eyes could behold the beauty of God's creation. Give thanks for standing on earth. Give thanks for the breath of life. Give thanks for the fresh air. Give thanks for the joy of the whole earth. Holy Emmanuel, Selassie, Jah, Rastafari. We give thanks, Majesty, for the Ethiopia-Africa Black International Congress Church of Divine Salvation. A people who stand above all kingdoms, stand in governmental, parliamental, churchical, sabbatical. Give thanks to the worthy founder, leader, president, God and King, Most Right Honorable King Emmanuel Charles Edwards, who is Melchizedek, as defined by Hebrews chapter 7. And so such an high priest became us, holy and defiled, Bobo Shanty is the people that exalt the Trinity. Marcus, Mosiah, Garvey, the prophet, the visionary. The Most Right Honorable King Emmanuel Charles Edwards, the Christ, the Black Christ, the high priest. And our divine Majesty Emperor Haile Selassie, who is the king. Without the king, the people would perish. Same little David, same embodiment of the Ark of the Covenant. Because even in the 21st century, David still battled Goliath, slew Goliath with a sling and a stone, word, sound, and power, and many casualties to the heart and the thoughts of evil people. So we give thanks, We speak of the Trinity. We speak of the power of the Trinity. Because the power of the Trinity is Rastafari. The power of the Trinity is Lichtafari. The power of the Trinity is Dijazmach Tafari. The power of the Trinity is Emperor Haile Selassie, who is Rastafari. Some people, they are fidgeting in their seats because we speak of the Trinity. Some people, they try to take out the emperor's works out of the earth, which they cannot remove. And we totally know that. It's like you see a stone and the continually beating down of the water on that stone will engrave that stone, change the shape of that stone. Because the constant running of that water. So Emperor Haile Selassie work is carved out in the earth that you cannot remove it. And just as we speak, I already say, you cannot take out Marcus Mosiah Garvey out of the earth. And you can't take out the Most Right Honorable King Emmanuel Charles Edwards out of the earth. Why? The work that they have done already and the work that they have performed. It is cemented, it is concrete in the earth. It is a pillar, it is of a statue. It's a foundation that you see in the earth right now and the changes that it has brought into the earth. So taking out these great men out of earth, you wouldn't be where you are at this time. And we always speak of, say, if Emperor Haile Selassie did not come into this earth, if Emperor Haile Selassie works did not manifest in this earth, many people that speak of Africa today couldn't speak of Africa. I even think of going to Africa that they see today. Yes, we know that the presence of the colonizers are still there at present. And we see that many things that they have established is still rooted. However, what is not there, that is not supposed to be there, will be removed. And it is already been removed already. You might not see it fully. However, those that have eyes is definitely seeing. So, going forward, we said, Emperor Haile Selassie, the Emperor, the power of the Trinity. A man that many people try to speak against. Those in the continent, those in the Caribbean, those that have never dig deep into the works of Emperor Haile Selassie, those that are just superficial investigators, people that are just on the surface. You know, like people like want a quick fix, just like a person have headache and the only thing they want to do is to go to the pharmacy and get a drug, get a pill one time and try to fix that headache. And they won't even look deep into themselves and see what is the cause. You know, they like quick fix. They like someone to come and say, I am God. They are looking for someone to burst out of the sky and say, I'm God. But they don't want to do the research and they don't want even to go into themselves. So there are many people that only want to unsurface with the emperor. However, the emperor is deep. The emperor is like going into deep waters. And if you go into deep waters and you're going down there in that water to find out what is down there in that water, you remember you have to have enough oxygen in your tank and be prepared to go into depths. So you're going into the minds of the emperor to understand the emperor to fully realize what the emperor is dealing with. It's deep knowledge. It is deep, 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 deep. It's depths. So don't look on the surface of things. You have to go deep inside. And if you do not want to know the truth, you leave it alone, but don't never speak evil against the emperor. You are a biblical person. And I'm sure that your holy scripture in your Bible, even in the book of James, said, speak evil of no one, brethren. Condemn no one and let no one condemn you. So you want to condemn the emperor. You cannot condemn the emperor. You cannot condemn the emperor. You can't even doubt the emperor. You can doubt yourself. Don't doubt the emperor. Remember, 1884 to 1885. From November to February, November 1884 to February 1885. Remember the colonizers, they were deliberating. They had their meeting, Berlin Conference, the Berlin Pact, where they sit down and decide who's to get this and who's to get that of the big cake, the wonderful cake, the bread basket of the earth, Africa, the African continent. The French, the Germans, the Americans, everyone chose what part they want. The Ottoman Empire, the Arabs, consists of Greece and Turkey, and the little minor groups of the Jews. They all wanted Africa. They all came into Africa. They all came into Africa, you know. They all came into the continent. Remember, 1896. Remember, the Italian War. They came again. After they get defeated, the Battle of Ottawa, they did get defeated. The Italians, that is, same Europeans. Now, if Italy had come once again, this time with great armaments, high-powered missiles and rifles and aeroplanes and taking over the great empire of Ethiopia. Which Africa will be talking about today? Because it will be totally colonized. It's one state that has never been colonized, and that was Ethiopia. If Emperor Haile Selassie I, many of you say run, but many of you don't understand diplomatic moves. If Emperor Haile Selassie I not address the League of Nations, if Emperor Haile Selassie I, who faced 5 bleeding wounds in exile, 5 years in exile, that is 5 bleeding wounds, away from your family, away from your people, living in conditions that not your own. Speaking to the League of Nations to address the conscience of these people. If Emperor Haile Selassie I never did this, you couldn't talk about a continent of Africa like how you're talking about Africa today. So therefore, never you think of the idea in your head for a minute, for a second, or a millisecond. Try to discredit the emperor. Don't take your little miniature thought and try to discredit the emperor. The power of the Trinity. The power of Bobo Shanty Trinity. 1936, turn around to 36, you get 1963. How many years is that? 27? To address the League of Nations, 1963. The only person upon the face of the earth to address the two bodies that say they govern the earth. I don't know who give them that power. Anyway, they take it upon themselves and they say it's them govern earth. They are the judges of the earth, and they are the fathers of the earth, and they are the rulers of the earth, the governing body of the earth. Only consists of European countries. They have more stock in it. Yes, today African countries have member states in the in the United Nations. However, they are not regarded. When the United Nations was formed, 1948, 1949, did any African country help to form it other than Ethiopia? Yeah, Liberia was always a free state also, one of the first states, However, 1963, Emperor Haile Selassie I addressed United Nations. The only living person, the only leader of a country, the only leader to address both. The only leader to give a prophetic speech to both. Because remember, it's today for us, today for you. The same match that is striking Ethiopia burned down Europe. Emperor Haile Selassie addressed the United Nations, and he said that until the philosophy which was one race superior and another inferior is finally and permanently discredited and abandoned, that until there is no longer first class or second class citizens of any nation, that until the color of a man's skin is of no more significance than the color of his eyes, that until the basic human rights are equally guaranteed to all without regard to race, that until that day, the dream of lasting peace and world citizenship and the rule of international morality will remain but a fleeting illusion to be pursued but never attained. At the time when all of these countries are gathering and getting their nuclear weapons, at the time when these people are invading other countries still, and still talking about world peace, Emperor Haile Selassie is making it clear to them that until the color of a man's skin is of no more significance than the color of his eyes, until the basic human rights, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, Article 1 to 30, is equally guaranteed to all. It's a fleeting illusion, so you're living in an illusion world if you don't want to see these things that are put in place. It's the same thing the Most Right Honorable King Emmanuel Charles Edwards is talking about. That is why he stands within the human rights and human justice. It's the same thing Mosiah Garvey is speaking about. Human rights. When everyone stand and speak as free beings, just as our Emperor Haile Selassie stated. Until all African stand and speak as free beings equal in the eyes of the Almighty. Now we know that Robert Nesta Marley put this song, these words into a song, and many of you think that it is Robert Nesta Marley words. Even you superficial investigators that only looking on the surface, you don't even realize that these words. You even look into those words and realize who the emperor is. The emperor is the power of the Trinity. Now, you have Rastaman out there will say, Bobo Shanty put in King Emmanuel before Emperor Selassie. When they hear the Bobo Shanty say, Holy Emmanuel Selassie Jah Rastafari. So they have a problem with that. Now, Peter had a son named James. No. Peter's last name is James, so his name Peter James. Peter James have a son by the name of Michael. Michael cannot have a name of, or a surname, last name, you call it, as Brown, because his father is James. Now, Peter James' father's last name is James. Peter James' father, last name is James. So it is rooted as James. So if Emperor Haile Selassie is the root of the Trinity, the power of the Trinity, and Rastafari is grounded in Emperor Haile Selassie, and King Emmanuel Charles Edwards is grounded in Emperor Haile Selassie, isn't your name supposed to come before the root of your name, the power of your name? Thus, Holy Emmanuel Selassie Jah Rastafari. You have a problem with that? To the Bobo Shanty say, Marcus Mosiah Garvey Selassie Jah Rastafari. You have a problem with that? Because here the Bobo Shanty say, Bobo Shanty Selassie Jah Rastafari. You have a problem with that? Emperor Selassie is in our root. Emperor Selassie is in our power. And you can't stop I and I from owning I and I Father's name. Emperor Selassie works cannot be removed out of the face of the earth. Emperor Selassie is the man that give I and I Rastafari a vision, a power to even live within human rights and human justice. Even when people fighting against I and I, Emperor Haile Selassie I bring human rights, I and human justice. So we give thanks. You cannot remove this man's name out of history. You cannot disregard this man's name. And you cannot disregard the works of this great individual man. He is the power of the Trinity. You cannot remove his name out of history. So Bobo Shanty is grounded firm and deep in Emperor Haile Selassie. So we say the prophet, the priest, and the king. Bobo Shanty, Trinity. Marcus Mosiah Garvey, the most right honorable King Emmanuel Charles Edwards, and Emperor Haile Selassie I. The first mission, the liberation of Africa and African people. The three individuals we look into, from Marcus Mosiah Garvey been prophesying, and Marcus Mosiah Garvey is doing his work from the formation of the UNIA. When you look within that era, when you look into that era right there, so you're going to take the 1900 blank, 1900, and we're going to 2000 blank. So you're looking at 1900 and you're looking at 2000. And when you look at 1900 to 2000 and you look deep into it, you realize now with your real eyes and see a man upon a statical work, a man upon a spiritual works, and a man upon a governmental works, saying the same thing. You will speak of Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, but however, the United States of Africa came from Marcus Mosiah Garvey. I am not speaking about the people that are springing out of Garvey branches, because he's a root, He's the root of this liberation of Africa. I am not speaking about the branches that are bear fruit. I am speaking about the depths, the root. So many respect to Osaje for Dr. Kwame Nkrumah. We love him greatly. However, we're speaking of the root of things. When even spiritual leaders find themselves in Jamaica and they speak about Emperor Haile Selassie, their mission also was not fully about an African redemption. They speak of an African king, the African God. However, Marcus Garvey is speaking about a redemption of Africa. The most right honorable King Emmanuel Charles Edwards is speaking of a redemption of Africa. Emperor Haile Selassie I is speaking about the redemption of Africa and the Africans people. 1900 1900-2000. I'm speaking about that time. Look into everything with your real eyes to see the real lies of Babylon. And when we say Babylon, we mean all of those countries that are working their iniquity, as you would call it, to spread their propaganda upon the face of the earth. There's no other three leaders that stood like that. A statical man, a churchical man, a governmental man. A government, a kingdom, ruled by state and church. And we speak of church, we don't mean that little building over there on St. Peter's Square. Church is really the people. That's why the Ethiopia Africa Black International Congress is not wood, it's not board, it's people. It's an association, an incorporated trustee. It stands for the development of Africa and Africans people. Mosiah Garvey's great vision, a liberated Africa. Emperor Haile Selassie I vision to see the unification of Africa, to see where Africans could stand and speak as free beings. Not just only he as an African leader want to address the governing bodies. He wants to show you that all African leaders have a right to address a situation, to address a matter that they see fit for the benefit of their people. Emperor Haile Selassie I spoke a speech where he said, if in truth the basic struggle in the world today is for the minds of men, then that nation or a group of nations which seek to impose its will upon any African people will most naturally be vanquished in the struggle. Africa needs and desires and welcomes the help of others, both physical and moral, but Africa must nevertheless be left to develop herself, her people, her resources as Africans determine. Leave to us freely and without qualm the choice between good and evil, between injustice and justice, between oppression and liberty. Our choice will be the right one, and history will judge us, and you the better for it. So many people will see, say, Emperor Selassie, they say Emperor Selassie is going all over the world. Emperor Selassie is the peacemaker. He has been both victim and victor. And humanity is that we are supposed to be brothers in this earth, where we're supposed to help each other. Not to intrude upon my rights, and I not to intrude upon your rights. That's why His Majesty is showing you that any nation or a group of nations try to impose upon Africans people their will, that nation will be totally vanquished. That's why the man said, until all Africans stand and speak as free beings equal in the eyes of the Almighty, until that day, the African continent will not know peace. We Africans will fight if necessary, but we are confident in the victory of good over evil. Emperor Haile Selassie is a defender, and is the defender of the Africa continent and the Africans people. So don't be misguided in this life of yours. Try to understand, as some of my brethren Rastafari say, overstand. And some will go to the dimensions and say, understand. It's still a trinity that, understand, overstand, understand. You see? So we give thanks to the power of the Trinity. I dwell upon the solid rock. And I as a people, and I as Bobo Shanty people, staying focused upon the liberation of Africans people. Staying upon it to liberate people from out of the hands of colonialism and imperialism. through human rights and human justice. All human beings are born free and equal in dignity and rights. They are endowed with reason and conscience and should act towards one another in a spirit of brotherhood. We give thanks to the testament of the Trinity. You cannot remove these three individuals from out of history. Build your legacy. What's your purpose in earth? What did you come to earth to do? Emperor Haile Selassie come to fulfill his mission. Mosiah Garvey come to fulfill his mission. The Most Right Honorable King Emmanuel Charles Edwards come to fulfill his mission. All three came to fulfill their mission. What mission were you sent on? Is it to eat, to drink, and go to the earth? Or you have a purpose? Or is it just to criticize and point fingers? That's all you talk about? People are suffering and children are dying and mothers are crying. And fathers are dying each day. What are you doing against the fight of colonialism and imperialism? And one race over the other race. And one people over the other people and one country. Seeking to exalt themselves over other countries. And one country stealing the resources of other people. Will you sit by and look? Or will you rise up and stand in this time and find yourself? Know yourself in the earth. Emperor Haile Selassie's knowledge is deep. Emperor Haile Selassie's wisdom is wide. The understanding of Emperor Haile Selassie is infinite. Give thanks to Mosiah Garvey. Give thanks to the Most Right Honorable King Emmanuel Charles Edwards. And we exalt and we extol the name of Emperor Haile Selassie for what he has done. Give thanks for the solid rocks. Cannot be removed. If they are removed, the sun won't shine for you. Because they are a light in this earth. And they have a right to possess what they have done in this earth. And give thanks. Many of you are living off the culture of these three individuals. Yet you try to deny them. You're only denying yourself. If you have a ticket to go to Africa tomorrow and you speak against Emperor Haile Selassie, I bet you cancel your flight. Because there will be no continent for you to go to without Emperor Haile Selassie. I say you cannot remove his work. For that great mission that was done in 1936 is why you could talk about a continent today. It's why you could talk about a OAU and an African Union. It's why you could talk about Ghana. It's why you could talk about Ethiopia. Still there's work to be done. And just as our Emperor Haile Selassie, Mosiah Garvey, King Emmanuel Charles Edwards fight for the liberation of Africa, fight for the liberation of all states in Africa that are still under colonial rule. Fight for the liberation of your people in the Western world that are continually meeting the oppression and the brutality of governments, their courthouses, their police forces, the injustice of their medical facilities, pharmaceutical industries, the foods. Stand up for your right and defend the cause of humanity. It is pleading and it is pleasing. One liberating God for us all. Give thanks to life, health, and strength again, and be wise in yourself. You cannot remove Emperor Haile Selassie's works, Mosiah Garvey's works, and the Most Right Honorable King Emmanuel Charles Edwards' works from out of history. It is embedded. Plant your name in history. So those that are coming after you may see your works. Give thanks to life. health, and strength again. Power to the Trinity. Triple crown God, Jah Rastafari, Selassie I. Jah Rastafari. Give thanks to life. Blessed love.
Jah Rastafari as a mission, freedom, redemption, repatriation to learn every man, woman, and children in their own vine and fig tree. Through Marcus Garvey voice. Jah
Blessed love, Rastafari, the mission, yes? It's all about self-mastery and mastering your thoughts and mastering
Africa for the Africans, and I bring in Christ to the nation. Well, Emmanuel, Selassie,
So King Emmanuel's mission continues. So King Emmanuel's mission